Salutations, my friends, and welcome to a new video. Now, you already know what time of month it is because we're rolling in with the typical staples at the beginning of the month. And since my monthly TBR already went up, you know it's time for our June wrap-up, talking about everything I read in the month of June, from the good, the bad, the ugly, the highly rated, the lower rated, the things that I'm not going to continue reading, and just give you the overall rundown of what occurred reading-wise in June. I was actually surprised that I managed to read as much as I did. I was expecting to read more though, and I did have loads of videos planned vlog-wise for June that I had to roll over into July, so you'll start seeing those in the coming weeks. But June was just an all-over-the-place month, from flare-ups and being sick to then family visiting, going to doctor's appointments, so I didn't think I would be reading much in June despite having such an ambitious TBR, and it turned out that I read 6 different books in June, which I honestly think is a huge win, and we're going to talk about all of them today. And let's get into talking about everything I read in the month of June. But before we get started with today's video, I do have to give a massive shout out to Ana Luisa for partnering with me today. You guys know I've been working with Ana Luisa for years. I absolutely love their jewelry, and it's really been a great way for me to build my own jewelry collection without breaking the bank, because their pieces start for as little as $39, and you're getting some great quality pieces without those luxury markups, which is honestly the best way to build your own collection. I feel like I'm always talking about how I like to dress down, and you guys always see it. I'm always wearing t-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies, and I like to be comfortable. That doesn't mean that I don't like zhuzhing up my outfit with some jewelry. So you already know if I peel the ear back, there's an ear party going. And that's the cool thing about Ana Luisa, is that they really do have something for everybody regardless of what you're looking for. So if you're into rings or necklaces or ear cuffs or piercings or whatever it is that you're into jewelry wise, they'll have an option for everybody. I've also always loved Ana Luisa's mission towards better sustainable fashion. They're very mindful of how they source the material and also dispose of it, and that's why they've offset 100% of their carbon emissions and continue to take steps towards making this an even more sustainable ordeal, which I absolutely love. This go around I got 2 new pieces, and I can't wait to show you because they are pieces that I've been wanting for my collection for a while, and now I can finally say that I have them. First, we have got the Kiara earring, and I was really looking for a bigger statement piece for my ears. I feel like typically when it comes to earrings, I go very dainty, and I was missing something in my collection that would be more of a wow moment, so I really love the fact that this has made its way into my collection. And then we have got the Aura bracelet. Now, I'm typically not a bracelet girl, but this one just absolutely called my attention. I've been looking for a link piece for my wrist, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, whether it was a bracelet or a watch, but I figured Ana Luisa had an option for a bracelet, so of course I had to go for this one. So if you would like to check Ana Luisa out, get yourself some high quality, long lasting jewelry, join me in building my own collection. I will be leaving my link at the top of the description, so you can get up to 30% off your order and start building your jewelry collection. Now, before we actually get started with the things I read in June, I would love to hear you guys down in the comment section. First of all, what did you read in the month of June? Did you find any new favorites? Did you DNF any books? Did you find books that you ended up really disliking? And then question number 2, which is really why I'm prefacing this all with a question, I would love to know how much you guys enjoy seeing stats when it comes to wrap-ups. Do you guys like hearing how many pages were read, in which genres, if it's a backlist, if it's a newer title, if I've read from this author before? Do you appreciate stats? Do you care for them? Because I've been thinking about maybe incorporating a section into the wrap-ups that talks all things stats. I've never done it before, but I would love to hear you guys' take. Do you care for it? Do you not care for it? And overall, do you find it in any way valuable? Let a girl know. And listen, we're going to start out with my ultimate favorite book that I read in June, because June was filled with floptinas, and I just need to talk about the best one right from the jump to set up a good note to this wrap-up. And so the first thing we are going to talk about that I absolutely gave 5 stars to is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I don't know why I thought that this book would be dense and that it would be hard to get into, and that it overall wouldn't be my typical vibe when it came to fantasy. It also had been pitched as a fantasy romance, I think, by a lot of the audience members that had read this book, and honestly, the moniker of fantasy romance, that subgenre in general, really scares me. I think I've had so many bad experiences with the subgenre that I am very cautious when it comes to going into it, because I never really know what I'm going to experience. However, one, happy to report, the book is not a fantasy romance. This is just a regular fantasy book that has a romance subplot that really doesn't take over the story, but it is a good subplot, which is why I can see why people are using like very specific buzzwords for this title. But this is first and foremost a fantasy. The plot, the world building, the magic system, the character construction is really at the forefront of the story. And then after you get all those things, then you get a hint of romance. romance, and it is oh so very good. One Dark Window establishes a world in which a plague has settled in, and whoever catches the plague basically is left with powers as a little reward, I guess we could say, for surviving the plague. However, this has been outlawed by the king himself, so anybody that is found to have had the plague or to have magical abilities, unless it serves the king, they are taken care of because they are not meant to be around. And that is where our main character Elspeth comes in, because she did catch the plague when she was younger, and now she lives her days with this huge secret hanging not only over herself but also over her family, who knows that she caught the plague. What she's been lying about, however, is the fact that it didn't leave any powers behind when it actually did, and now she lives with this ancient mercurial spirit in her head, telling her what to do and telling her these very cryptic messages, and overall just protecting her on a day-to-day basis. And one day she is casually strolling on the woods and she encounters some highwaymen that she needs to run from because it is not safe, only to find out that these highwaymen are actually working in secret, some of them are royalty, in a ploy against the king. And the story goes from there, and there is loads of secrets to unveil and a lot of magic to explain and a lot of hurdles to walk past, and it is so very well fleshed out. I think what I loved the most about this book, outside of Elspeth and the spirit in her head that she calls the nightmare, is I just think that dynamic was so good. I can just imagine how stressful and frustrating it would be just walk daily life with a little voice at the back of your head actually like saying things that you cannot even begin to comprehend. And I think the way that Elspeth has grown so used to this spirit in her head, and the way that they work so in tandem, and the way that this spirit lends a helping hand but not without a cost whenever she needs it, I think that aspect of the book is absolutely phenomenal, and it really did deliver on everything I would have liked. But beyond that, the magic system is so rich and unique, which I love. I love encountering books that feel so different from what I've already read. And not only did this read like a dark folk tale, which I really enjoyed, but the magic system is based on tarot cards. And I thought that was so very unique, and it stood on its own, that I couldn't help but immediately be charmed by it and love it. So I think the magic system honestly is immaculate, and I love that the magic that does take place with the tarot card specifically is not something that's exclusive to certain individuals. It's not like, oh, because I'm special, I get to use it or do it. It literally can be used by anyone, and I really love that there are hard set rules in place that explain the to-dos and what not to do's and the cost of everything. I just think that she fleshed out the magic system wonderfully, and when it came to the actual world building as well, as the reveals were starting to ensue as the story went along, it was just so juicy and just rich, and I really did love it all. I think she placed all of the reveals and the tidbits of information in all the right places, and even though I found myself guessing pretty early on what the big twist would be, I still wasn't disappointed with it. I really loved the way that everything was explained, and I found myself even more excited already knowing what I knew for when we got to that reveal moment, because I just knew it was going to be super explosive, and it was. And then you obviously factor in the romance, which I also think was done wonderfully. You have got this plot of a marriage of convenience slash fake dating, which I think under the context of the book and what the characters are doing, I think is absolutely fantastic. And so this was just a recipe for success overall. Rachel Gillig really delivered. I can't wait to read Two Twisted Crowns this month. I'm very excited about it. And this was just everything that I wasn't even expecting it to be, but it was. It was just absolutely incredible. I was really excited for Cat Plus Gamer Volume 1. I had previous to this read A Man and His Cat, and you guys know how much I fell in love with that manga series, and I was expecting to find another really good cat manga series, which apparently, allegedly, you didn't hear it here first, is my current fixation. However, I don't know that I'm going to be continuing with the series. I thought the manga had its charm, but not enough for me to hold on to it. I didn't find myself particularly like emoting or, you know, particularly serotonin full. That's not a term, but let's make it up. I didn't find myself really feeling a whole lot while I was reading this, and I felt quite indifferent, but I think that the premise is cute. We follow our main character who is a corporate girly. She works a 9 to 5 and she has got a very fixed routine in place because she is a gamer. So she knows that she'll go to work and then when she comes back home or when she's clocking out, she'll run back so that she can start playing her game, clear a few levels, do all the things that she has got to get done. However, she goes outside of her routine for once, and everybody in her office is also shocked by it when somebody comes into the office exclaiming that they have found a stray cat outside the main door, and she decides to actually take it home with her. And she starts viewing this whole literal adventure as if it was a video game to clear. So all of the different know-hows on how to have a cat, how to take care of it, what food to give the cat, how to play with a cat, what toys to get, all of those she views as a different level of difficulty that she needs to clear, which I think is cute, but I think that's what this manga boils down to. Like, it's cute, but it didn't give me more. I didn't feel emotionally attached to our main character, nor did I feel emotionally attached to the cat. It's not like other cat mangas that I've read where you immediately feel that connection and I guess like that soul bond, which is like so silly to say, but you don't feel that connection between the cat and our main girl, which I forgot her name, Rico, and it was just okay. So this one was a 3-star. I am glad that I read it. It's obviously a quick read, but beyond that, it literally is just a girl and her cat and gaming. It just was not for me. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sango Mandana was also a huge letdown. This was one of my top 10 books to read in 2024. I genuinely thought I would have rated this 5 stars, that I was going to love it. It was pitched to me as a found family, cozy fantasy with a really great romance thrown in the midst of the story. And while I did get the found family, which I think is a given, not that hard to do, I thought that the romance bit and the character construction and the sequence of events was kind of a letdown. And I wasn't quite sure going into this book what sort of stakes we would have, if the stakes would be low or high, because I really didn't know, because it seemed to be such an intersectional book, where exactly it would fall on. And I really don't even know where to categorize this, because I wouldn't necessarily call it like a full-blown fantasy, because it does read more like a romance with a fantasy element to it. So it's just one of those books that's kind of hard to categorize because it's neither here nor there. However, I can definitely see why people loved this as much as they did. We follow our main character, Mika Moon, who is a witch, and she has been told her entire life that witches do not mingle. Witches deal in singles, and they are orphaned from a very young age, which I think sort of conditions them to that thought that they should be by themselves. And the reason why this is because when witches are together, the magic signals higher, and it risks exposure to humans. And so Mika has been very used to being by herself, whilst also yearning for something more than what she has got. And then one day she receives an invitation to go to Nowhere House to teach magic to 3 young girls that live together. And while she immediately thinks, no, I'm not gonna go because it's kind of a strange proposition, the thought of 3 young witches living together strikes her as interesting and odd, because how have people not found out that this is a thing that is taking place? And so out of curiosity, she heads to Nowhere House, she says yes to the job, and she is met with the entire staff in the house, as well as the librarian for Nowhere House, who she strikes up a romance with in the story. And I have to say, like, there are redeeming qualities in this book for me. Like, the 3 young girls, I really loved them. The fact that all of them had very unique personalities and voices. I also really liked the lore behind the story, and I guess the backstory into the witches and how they go about the day-to-day life. I thought that aspect was super interesting. I think my issue comes in the form of Mika, who we are told a lot of things about. We are told that she feels certain ways, then she acts a different kind of way. We are told that she wants this one thing, but then she acts a different way. We are told that she is this, but she is that, and we never really see these things play out firsthand. We are just told them, and I am really frustrated with books when they do that in general. So it's not so much this book's fault as it's just something that as a reader I do not enjoy. I do not enjoy a book telling me, oh, Mika really has commitment issues because her mom left her when she was young. Show me that she has got commitment issues. Show me how that shows up in daily life for her. Show me how she finds it difficult to connect to the love interest. Show me how she flees when she has interactions with the love interest. And so because the action and the thought process or the character construction was a complete opposite of each other, I couldn't quite believe a lot of the things that I was being told because it didn't seem to match up. And then when the romance actually did roll around, I found it to be really underdeveloped for there to be no chemistry between Jamie and Mika, which I also found immensely disappointing because I genuinely thought that they had potential. When Jamie meets Mika, he's immediately like, no, not only do I not want her here because she is an outsider, but she's also cute, which I really don't feel safe around because I think I'm gonna end up liking her. And I'm like, immediately, that's gonna be a recipe for success. But they never really connect at a deeper level in which I found aided in that chemistry, that aided in the characters getting to that point of committing to each other. And then the book itself is just like very cheesy. I don't typically love cheesy stuff unless it's done, I think, in the right ways or in the right amount. And this one just screamed Netflix rom-com to me, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just not something that I'm into. So 3 stars to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I wish would have been a higher rating. Fret not, friends, we go back up to a 4-star with Addicted for Now by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the 3rd and final book in the first trilogy for the Addicted series. The series is broken up weirdly because it's 2 different series that weave together. So you have got the first 3 books in the Addicted series, then you have got the first 2 books in the Addicted Calloway series, then you have got 2 books in the Addicted series, 2 more books in Calloway Sisters, and then 1 epilogue book that kind of wraps everything up. So I guess it is kind of the culmination of the first trilogy, and I really enjoyed this. I think it was very different from books 1 and 2, and I really do think these 3 books can be encapsulated into different premises and different narratives. So book 1 and the overall premise for this series really follows Lily and Lo, who are battling addiction, and how they've agreed from a very young age to fake date in order to hide said addictions from their families. And in book 1, we observe how they, for the first time, make the decision that they actually want to date for real. And so that is the main setup for the series. Then in book 2, we observe them as they separate for a little bit. Like, they're still together and coupled up, but we see that Lo is in rehab whilst Lily is trying to work through her addiction in her own way, on her own side. And then in book 3, we see them reunited as they bring together all of those battles and knowledge and all of those hurdles that they have walked past or that they still need to walk past in order to work through this thing together as a unit. And I really enjoyed how this book played out. We had dual POVs in this one, which I thought was really fun. We get Lauren's POV while we also get Lily's, and there is also this sense of doom hanging over them because there is the threat of Lily's addiction becoming public because somebody is threatening them. So I think it added a level of stakes to the story more than we already have, because we already know that the stakes are pretty high in terms of, will these characters be able to become the best versions of themselves in order to be together in a healthy relationship? And although the book does have its more campy, out there, really outrageous moments, because these are very rich people, and so I think the way that certain things come up in the story are very much happening that way because they are very fucking rich. However, I think the bits that are more subdued and the moments that are more closed quarters and are more slice of life, I think those things tend to be more realistic. And I do really enjoy the fact that Krista and Becca Ritchie often talk about the ecosystem, right? The environment in which one needs to be in order for that to be conducive to good healing. And as somebody who also underwent a lot of healing for her own eating disorder, and it was very, very difficult, I had to obviously do a lot of therapy, but it was also a lot of figuring out what currently surrounds me that aids and abets this type of behavior. What are the triggers, and how does the ecosystem interact with that trigger or with those triggers that can potentially lead to more harm than good? And how can we get to a spot where we feel better? Do we need to take ourselves out of that, that physical space? Do we need to set boundaries with people? And I really love that the book kind of goes about all of those things, and maybe it doesn't establish these conversations exactly how I'm mentioning it, like explicitly, but I think the way that the characters navigate situations, and often also the way that certain conversations take place, the book really does talk about that. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it because it'd be very unrealistic otherwise to not look at everything and how our characters interact with those spaces and vice versa. And so really enjoyed that about this book. Really enjoyed these characters kind of wanting to take 3 steps back, but really holding themselves back from doing something out there that they know is going to be harmful, as well as re-falling into habits that they really shouldn't be engaging with. So I think that back and forth and that struggle that really showcases that these things are not linear, and this path of recovery is very up and down and upwards and backwards, and you never never really know what's going to happen up until you wake up and it happens. So I really loved that about this book, and I just overall really liked seeing our characters battle those temptations, battle those instincts to do shit that they really don't need to be doing. And it's hard, and you can tell that it's hard for them, but the journey is so very rewarding towards the end. And so I loved this. It was really, really good. I just found that it was too long for what it actually is, and then the ending in itself was a little bit too campy for my taste. Again, there are a lot of very ridiculous moments because they're rich people, but if you take this away, the story does get better, and I'm hoping that this length goes away because we do not need this much. We really, really don't. Another 3-star, The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson did not hit the spot for me. I was really expecting to love this because I had already read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and then its sequel, Good Girl Bad Blood. I had really enjoyed both of those books, and this being a standalone and such a different premise than A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I was really excited to see what the author would do in this scenario. Also because I haven't read other Holly Jackson works outside of that series, I was really excited about this one, and it was really disappointing. I found the start to be interesting yet very slow in how it gets to the inciting incident. It took quite a while to get to the reappearance of Rachel Price, and then on top of that, the book under-delivers on a lot of the commentary that it tries to set up, or it misses a lot of opportunities to set up a lot of the commentary that I think would have made the story even richer. And a lot of the time, the way that the characters act doesn't seem quite realistic for the scenario that we are in, which I also thought was very frustrating. We follow our main character Belle, who grew up without her mother around, except that she hears of her mother all the time. 16 years ago, Rachel Price and baby Belle were at the mall, and they were running their errands and doing their thing, and lo and behold, Rachel Price goes missing. Nobody knows where she has gone. There were no clues left behind, and although there have been loads of people to speculate where Rachel Price went, nobody ever knew. And now, present time, 16 years later, Belle and her family are filming a documentary with a specific crew that has requested said documentary on Rachel Price's disappearance, only for Rachel Price to quite literally turn up mid-filming, claim that she is fully back from the disappeared or the dead or wherever she was at. This obviously doesn't come without its hurdles because Belle is very cautious around Rachel now, because this is not only a woman that she doesn't know, but she mistrusts her intentions now that she's back, and she even questions where she was to begin with. One thing I think the book does very well is establish the conversation around how true crime and the true crime community can often be very toxic and can overstep boundaries that should never be overpassed. We hear of loads of different people reaching out to the Price family, trying to ask and request to film documentaries and to get information and to write articles on this family, on the disappearance, and it never seems to reach an end. Even when Belle goes to school, everybody's always talking about her and her family. We had incidents of stalking and people breaching boundaries and people asking questions or pointing fingers where neither of those things needed to ensue. And I think it really talks about how a lot of the time for a lot of people, the event itself that people talk about is bad, yes, but the experience after, when you are in the public eye, when you are being observed by everybody, when people are talking about you all the time, and when people do not seem to acknowledge boundaries or respect you or your family, it can often be worse than the event itself. And we see that time and time again with Belle and her family, and how people do crazy things in order to find out and have that premise of how did Rachel Price disappear and how is she back and what truly happened. Beyond that, the book was just okay. It took a really long time to get to the meat of the story, to get to any sort of twist or reveal. And while the investigative aspect of the book was fun, it does kind of fall under the pit trap of characters assuming things and thinking that they've solved the crime and that they've got everything cracked and figured out, when in reality they don't even know like the baseline of what's happening. And I found that very frustrating because the main character is very biased and she has got very specific things that she wants to hear, wants to see, and so the minute she finds something that aids and abets that opinion, she's like, done, fantastic, we figured it out, amazing, never seen before, give me 14 of them. She's just very much in that headspace, and I found that very frustrating as the book went along. I did like the twist, I did like the things that were explained. Some things I thought were very obvious. However, when it comes to Rachel's character, I really wish that Holly Jackson would have developed that character more and maybe would have displayed a lot of the signs of trauma, PTSD that were sure to take place after what she went through. And everybody deals with these things differently. It's, you know, it's a given. However, based on what what the character has been said to have gone through, I think it was downplayed a lot, and the ending itself seemed so very unrealistic for what it was, which is definitely not my cup of tea either. There were also inklings of romance between Belle and one of the crew members, which didn't go anywhere, and at that point, why include it at all if you're not gonna do anything with it? It just takes time away from the story, doing things that don't matter, dilly-dallying too much, which I found this book did a shit ton of, and overall, again, it was just okay, but I really do think I'll be sticking to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder for now and finishing that series, because this was just, it was okay. It was a 3-star. And last but not least, we have got Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. Now, if you guys have been watching for a while, then you'd know that I have read every single Ali Hazelwood book, and the only one that I was missing is this one, not counting the novellas, because I'm missing those two, but it's novella, so it's really not that important in comparison to the main novels. Not that this one was important either, but it was important to me to get it done, especially after loving all of her books and giving them all 5 stars. And this was no different, because it was also a 5-star. In this one, we follow our main character B, who is obviously a scientist. It is part of the STEMinist series by Ali Hazelwood, and she gets the offer of a lifetime to go work at NASA to work on some sort of helmet that will do some neuro recalibration for when astronauts are in space. Went in through one, went out the other, because this is way above my pay grade. I really loved reading about it and getting to know a little bit more, but really way above my pay grade. There's a reason why we're here, buddy. But when she gets this offer to go to NASA, she figures out that she will be co-leading the project and not leading it by herself. And the co-leader of said project is going to be Levi Ward, who is her arch nemesis, or at least they used to be when they were in school together. And when she gets to the workplace, she thinks that he will be very hostile and very much unwelcoming. And she's surprised to find out that it is in fact the complete opposite. Everybody else is very unwelcoming when it comes to her presence. They don't really want her around. They start messing with the project. And they're not very forthcoming when it comes to the things that need to get done. And seemingly because of that, Levi starts being a lot more gentle and a lot more caring and a lot more nurturing to be, to make sure that she has got the space she needs and the equipment she needs and everything she needs in general in order to make this project succeed. Safe to say the story goes from there, but Ali Hazelwood strikes once more with a really lovable heroine whilst also having a really gentle giant love interest, which I absolutely loved. I find that every single one of her love interests is just so good-natured and kind-hearted and just always has the best intentions at heart, which I absolutely love. Because listen, don't I love myself a good toxic romance every once in a while? Don't we know it? Yes, I do. Very often I read romance books in which the love interest is supposed to be a grumpster to everybody else, except to the main character, and yet ends up being a little bit of a bitch to the main character. And I love that in this one, we go in fully expecting Levi to be a little bit of a bitch, and then he's not. He is very, very kind to everybody. He fosters a really safe and a very equal workspace. He is very attentive. He listens to everybody. He makes sure that everybody's got what they need. He is just the best person to be around all around. And then B as well. I just love seeing main characters that are capable in this way. She is so smart. She is so very capable at her job, and she knows her value. When she walks into that workspace, she knows what she's bringing in. She knows there's nobody better than her. She knows she is the right person for the job. And despite everybody trying to bring her down and everybody saying, oh, maybe we can switch the neuroscientist, maybe we can change the person doing this or that, she knows that she is the right person to be carrying this project. And I really love seeing characters with that level of confidence that isn't shaken up at the slight blow out of the antagonist. It was just so very good. And I just love me a good basic plot of, I thought you hated me all along, but actually you loved me and liked me this entire time. I really love that. And what Ali Hazelwood excels at in every single one of her novels is giving us a balance of two things. Yes, we get a really good romance and we get all of the things that come with it, but we also get really well fleshed out characters. We get to know both of them, and we get to see that through their conversations with each other, but also in the way that they act. And I absolutely love that about her books, because a lot of the romance books I have read in the past don't take the time to do that. And so really loved this one, despite me thinking that I wasn't going to, because I was kind of skeptical, because this seems to be the most polarizing of her releases outside of Bride these days, but people didn't really seem to love this when it came out, but I loved it. And this is everything I read in the month of June, friends. 6 books right here. Again, more than I thought, less than I thought, but I still think it was a massive success to have read this much. You guys know, even if I read just one book, I'm happy, and if I read none, it's just what it is. I'm definitely not mad at these things. I don't take it too seriously, so this to me is a huge success. So that is it for today, friends. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a massive thumbs up down below. As always, comment down below what you read this past month. Did you find any new favorites, a 5-star? Did you find some DNFs, some not so great book? And again, let me know about the stats thing, because I'm really curious to know what you guys personally think about stats. If you like it in specific videos, if you like it in wrap-ups, if you like it in any type of video, I can give you a stat. Let a girl know in the comments. If you reached the end of the video, let us leave a window emoji down in the comments for one dark window. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more content like this, and if you want to support the channel further, you guys already know there is a Patreon linked down below always. In case you want to support the channel further, it really helps keep things moving along and to run things smoothly, so that is always linked down below, and you get a ton of things by pledging, from sprints to catch-ups to cozy game nights to movie nights to readathons. We've got an August month-long readathon incoming, so if you want to join us since now so you can get familiar with Patreon and all the things, and then join us in the August month-long readathon, I can assure you, you will not want to miss it. I love you guys so much, and I will see you on the next one.
Bye!